hope everyone's having a good summer. It's getting ready to come to an end here up in Michigan, where it's been hot and rainy and humid and unpleasant with tons of mosquitoes all summer. Which is kind of a disappointment, because the bargain you get living in Michigan is that it's nasty outside and cold and gloomy for 9 months out of the year, and then you get those 3 months, basically June, July, and August, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, when it's nice out. And it's nice enough that it's worth having to be cooped up inside for the other 9 months out of the year, and that just wasn't the case this year. So pretty much the last 12 months have been a bust since the end of last summer. Just a real quick video. We're driving in our Duramax. It's the 2011 3500 with the 6.6 liter LML series Duramax, which came out that year in 2011. Halfway through the life cycle of this body, which is called the GMT 900 or 910. And we got it because it was the first year that had this engine available. And this engine was a pretty substantial improvement over the previous one, which was called the LMM, which was out from, I want to say, 2007 and a half all the way through the end of 2010. And that was an okay engine. It was basically an LBZ with a diesel exhaust, with a soot filter, the DPF. And it had it did not have a DEF system, from what I can recall. It had EGR, but then again, Duramaxes have had EGR since going back all the way to the LBZ time frame, if not before then. And so what the LML added was a much lighter rotating assembly, stronger crankshaft, pistons, rods, so that it could tolerate somewhere between 500 and 600 horsepower with the stock rotating assembly. I think the head gas system might have been a little bit stronger. The transmission was the Allison 6-speed, which I think you were able to get with the LMM, if I recall right, or maybe even the LBZ. But the other neat thing you got with the LML was the turbocharger with the exhaust brake, a factory exhaust brake, and that just improves your safety factor and your confidence and your comfort tremendously when you're driving with heavy loads in the mountains, as we do a lot. It also had a really substantial bump in horsepower and torque from the LMM. It brought the horsepower up to 397, brought the torque up to 765. You got a new frame, you got a new suspension, much stronger frame and suspension. You got the same body style and interior, and to be honest, there's nothing wrong with this interior. The body style is perfectly fine. Came out in 2007. And, it's going on 15 years old at this point, and it still looks fine. It still looks perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. We did not want to get the previous body style, which came out in the late 90s, around 99 time frame, because it was starting to look kind of old, and the interior, you could not get a nice interior if you were buying a used LBZ. It was going to be kind of used and abused, if that makes sense. The switches, the gauges, it was all just kind of old and junky looking. It was a GM product from the design in the mid-late 1990s. Those were just kind of junky products, if that makes sense. But really, the point of this video is for people who are looking at either getting the LML or the newer one, which is called the L5P. Which one do you get? And the very, very simple answer is, if you can afford to get an L5P, or I should say, if you want to spend the money on an L5P, you should get it. And if you don't feel like spending the money on an L5P, then you should get an LML. And that's really all there is to it. There's no reason to want an LML. It's not superior in any way to an L5P, other than the fact that it's older, so it's less expensive. And you know, we're kind of cheap when it comes to cars. We don't like throwing down money on new cars or cars that are only a year or two old, or trucks, because of how much depreciation you're going to get hit with. And so as far as we're concerned, if you can avoid having to do that, you know, why would you throw your money away when you don't need to? And so really that's all there is to it. The only reason to get an LML, meaning a 2011 to 2016 Duramax, is to save money. There is nothing at all in terms of performance, in terms of tunability, in terms of really anything that makes it superior to an L5P, other than the fact that it's substantially less expensive. And so if you want to throw down the money on an L5P, go for it. It's a much stronger engine. I think the horsepower went up to 445. The torque went up to, what, 910? Is that if that's right? If I remember that right. Much stronger, much more reliable. It does not have the CP4 associated problems that the LML has, because they got rid of the CP4. They got rid of Bosch. They went to Denso for the, I think for the injector as well as the pump, the high pressure pump. And so you're not going to have your high pressure pump explode on you in an L5P the way you could in the LML. Now we're getting the CP3 conversion kit put into this one, so we're not going to have that issue. It's around a $2,000 kit, no big deal. Maybe a little more for installation. But pretty much that's all there is to it. If you want to throw down the money on an L5P, go for it. You will not regret it. On the other hand, if you want to save a lot of money and get an LML, you will not regret that either, as long as you deal with the CP4, or you just want to take the chance that it's going to die on you and give you a $10,000 repair bill to basically rebuild your entire fuel system. Because when the CP4 goes out on you, it's not just your pump, because all those little fine metal particles that are generated in the course of the CP4 self-destructing, those will go all through your fuel system. So they'll go through your high pressure lines, your rail, your injectors, your return lines, all the way back to your gas tank, and you'll have to have all that replaced at tremendous cost. It only happens to the low single digits, you know, somewhere between 3 to 5% of these trucks experience that. And if you're okay with having a 3 to 5% chance that you're going to have to replace your entire fuel system, don't do anything. On the other hand, we would rather not have that happen in the middle of Nebraska in February. So we are going to have our CP4 changed out for a 3. And that's how we'll deal with that. But, you know, look at the mileage on this thing. It's got, what, 365K? $366. It's got the engine light because the emission system is perpetually causing one little issue or another. This latest one, as far as anybody can tell, the dealer, it's either the EGR or it is one of the 2 NOx sensors, nitrogen oxide sensors, and the dealer can't really figure it out. They want to take the entire cab off and start replacing stuff, and we're just not going to have that done. So we're going to have the engine on light, the check engine light on for the foreseeable future. No big deal. But again, we're cheap, and as far as we're concerned, if you can avoid throwing down massive piles of cash on a newer truck that's just going to depreciate on you, and you don't need that much power, you know, if your towing requirements are such that you can get away without needing 445 horsepower, 910 pounds of torque, and you can get by with 397 horsepower, 765 pounds of torque, then the LML is going to do you just fine. And that was the calculation we made, and it's worked out great for us. We're very, very happy with this truck. And in turn, anybody who has bought an L5P is extremely happy with it. We have never once heard of anybody who bought an L5P who thought, good God, I wish I'd gotten an LML. Again, the body style, you look at it, it still looks nice, it still looks modern, very clean, very simple. It's not overdone. It doesn't have that gigantic grille that the 2020, I should say the 2019 went to. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. We got our gooseneck in there. We do a lot of towing. This is our trailer. It's a 48-foot Exus, 17,000 pound GVW. We've had it loaded up to just under 26,000 pounds total between the truck and trailer. And this engine handles it just fine. The transmission shifts great. Again, it's got this exhaust brake. That's the switch for it. And the exhaust brake is a lifesaver in the mountains. It's got the 9th fuel injector, otherwise known as the dosing injector. And what that does is that puts fuel into the exhaust system to run what's called your DOC, or diesel oxidation catalyst, and burns off all the soot that the DPF collects. Once the DPF gets to the point where there's enough soot to where it's causing restriction, and the pressure sensors before and after the DPF determine that there is a buildup of pressure in the DPF, what happens is that 9th fuel injector, and I'll show it to you, injects fuel directly into the exhaust stream, and that generates enough heat to burn off the soot from your soot filter for your DPF. I'm not sure if you can see it back there. Your 9th fuel injector is back there. Can you see it back there? The turbo is underneath that metal housing there. And the dosing injector is way back on the, just beyond the outlet of the turbo. But again, the LML is a quiet engine, very, very powerful engine, extremely refined, and if the L5P had never come out, nobody would have anything bad to say about this engine. Once you address the CP4 issue, the only reason you would not want to get this engine is because of the fact that the L5P came out in 2017, and that was kind of a groundbreaking engine in so many ways. Tremendous increase in power, durability, tunability, reliability, and that's why everybody said, to hell with the LML, we're going to get the L5P. And for anybody who wants to spend the money on an L5P, especially in today's environment where the prices are ridiculously inflated, you are welcome to throw your money at that truck, and you'll never be disappointed in it. But for us, an LML with more than 1/3 of a million miles still does just fine. We took that trailer out to DLA in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania. It delivered 20 pallets. It was a big heavy load of freight, and the truck had no issues getting through the mountains on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Didn't complain one bit going up or down steep mountains. Anyway, thanks everyone. Hope this answers your questions about whether you should get an LML or an L5P. We will talk to you later.